For almost every animal on Earth, a tail is completely normal. Dogs have tails, cats have tails, monkeys have tails, even squirrels rely on them every day. But humans don't. And that's strange. Because humans are animals too. So what happened? Why did we lose something that worked successfully for millions of years? The answer begins in a world long before humans existed. Millions of years ago, vast forests covered much of the Earth. High above the ground, ancient primates moved through the trees. Every jump was dangerous, and every mistake could be fatal. In that environment, tails were essential. They helped animals balance, change direction, and avoid deadly falls. For millions of years, tails were one of evolution's greatest tools. Yet around 25 million years ago, something unusual began happening. A group of primates that would later become the ancestors of modern apes started losing their tails. Generation after generation, their tails became shorter until they eventually disappeared. Scientists spent decades trying to understand why. The answer may lie in how these early apes moved. Unlike monkeys, which often run across branches, apes began climbing more, hanging beneath branches and swinging with their powerful arms. As their bodies adapted to this new lifestyle, tails became less important. And in evolution, features that are no longer useful often disappear. Evolution doesn't care about tradition. It only cares about survival. If a feature helps survival, it stays. If it doesn't, it slowly fades away. But there may be another piece to the story. Scientists recently discovered evidence that a tiny genetic mutation may have played a major role in tail loss. Deep inside DNA, researchers found a small change shared by apes, including humans, chimpanzees, gorillas, and orangutans. Most tailed monkeys don't have this same genetic change. That tiny mutation may have disrupted normal tail development millions of years ago. Not overnight, but slowly, across countless generations. What's remarkable is that this small genetic accident may have helped shape the future of our entire species. Because losing a tail didn't simply remove one body part. It changed the structure of the spine, muscles, and body balance. And those changes may have helped prepare our ancestors for a completely different way of moving. Eventually, some of those adaptations contributed to upright walking. Humans are unusual because we walk on two legs. Standing upright freed our hands. It allowed us to carry tools, build shelters, and interact with the world in entirely new ways. Many scientists believe tail loss was one step in this larger evolutionary transformation. But evolution never gives something for nothing. The human body still carries evidence of its ancient past. At the bottom of your spine is a small structure called the coccyx, or tailbone. It's a leftover from ancestors that once had tails. A biological reminder of where we came from. And the story gets even stranger. Before birth, every human embryo briefly develops a small tail-like structure. For a short period, it extends beyond the developing body. Later, it is reabsorbed and becomes part of the tailbone. In other words, every human temporarily grows a tail before being born. Your body still follows an ancient evolutionary blueprint. And in extremely rare cases, babies are even born with tail-like structures. These rare cases remind scientists that evolution doesn't completely erase history. Sometimes it leaves clues behind. But if losing tails was so useful, why do monkeys still have them? The answer is simple. Evolution doesn't have a goal. Monkeys continued using tails because tails remained useful for their lifestyle. Apes evolved differently because they were solving different survival challenges. Neither path was better. They were simply different. One path continued producing monkeys. The other eventually produced apes, and much later humans. That's one of the most fascinating things about evolution. Small changes can create enormous consequences. A tiny mutation, a slightly different body, a slightly different way of moving through the trees. And millions of years later, an entirely different world. Every city, Every invention, every piece of technology may trace part of its history back to those ancient changes. The loss of the tail wasn't the end of a story. It was the beginning of one. Because once our ancestors started changing, the path toward humanity had begun, and that path eventually led to us. So the next time you think about evolution, remember this: your tail may be gone, but the evidence is still with you, hidden in your tailbone, written into your DNA, and preserved inside every cell of your body. A silent reminder of a journey that began millions of years ago in forests that no longer exist.